Hey everyone, it's Phil Hall of Westfair Communications, and thank you for taking the time to join us for yet another of our series of Westfair video conversations. If you're wondering who the fellow is with the aviator sunglasses in the screen with me, that's Paul Kilmer, and he is a professional magician. Paul, hello?
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing okay, thank you. Now, you folks at that there might be wondering, what is a professional magician doing in a business video? Well, funny you should ask, because business professionals get a lot of their advice from motivational speakers and performance coaches and MBA programs and business webinars, and when we used to have trade shows, business trade shows. But I think we can learn a lot from magicians, believe it or not. And why do I believe this? Well, Paul, why don't you show us one of your magic tricks, please?
Well, one of my favorite magic tricks to do is actually with this $1 bill. They say it takes money to make money, which I'm not sure is true or not, but it's fun to say to people. As a comic magician, I'm always out there networking, meeting people. Obviously, with the current situation, I've had to do this virtually. So my favorite thing to do is to show people how to do a trick so they too can entertain other people. Magic is a great way to create an icebreaker, which that's probably the hardest thing to do, how to introduce yourself. So this is how this works. You take a $1 bill and you fold it lengthwise. And then you fold it lengthwise again. Now, the purpose of this trick is to get George Washington's portrait to go upside down without turning the bill over. And all you got to do is flick right here in the middle, and you see George Washington's head is now upside down. Now, if you do everything I did, this will happen automatically. This is what we like to call in the business a self-working trick. But what isn't a self-working trick is getting good old George, to go back to the way he was. Now, all you have to do is flick the bill right here, and he goes back to the way it was. Now he's back to the way. It's broken now, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Nice. Okay, listen. A lot of the magic I do is comedy based. I'm a comic magician. There's a certain element of humor in everything I do. You're gonna need that when you're speaking in front of an audience. Another thing I like to is this. I like to walk up. You're at the bank, and there's a line, and you have somewhere to be, like lunch with the mother-in-law, or lunch with your fiance, or you are hungry. All you got to do is walk up behind someone and go like this. Everybody moves. Everybody moves every single time. They may not like you, but they do respect you.
Well, what I'm seeing and what you're doing are things that I can't do. And I think that's the beauty of basically being a business vendor, is you're providing products and services that your prospective clients can't do on their own. Or maybe they could. Maybe if I studied magic, if I watched videos, bought books, got card decks and dollar bills, someday I might be able to go like this and hocus pocus. But that's going to take quite a long time. How long did it take you to get to be where you are?
I started when I was 9. I'm 37 now, so that's a good amount of time. But if you have the right teacher, or you start small, you could probably be performing in 1 to 2 years, or what you're comfortable. Some people are extroverts, some people are introverts. I love to talk about extroverts or introverts. They're the same thing.
Yeah.
Because
you're talking about mentorship too, and that's a very big question in the professional world, because a lot of business people coming out of school who don't have connections in the industries they want to be in need to latch on to a mentor, and not everybody wants to be a mentor. Not everybody's a very good mentor.
Yeah. You find the same thing in magic, in traditionally how you broke into the magic business, it's very, very old thinking. Either you had a family member that was a magician, or you apprenticed under a magician, and then eventually you broke out and did your own. Sometimes, in my case, you have to be your own mentor, which means learn as much as you possibly can.
Yeah.
I can't remember who said it, but be your business. Learn as much about your business. There's a saying in magic: be a magic geek. Know times, places, dates. Know methods. Read books about psychology. One of the best magic books I ever read wasn't a magic book. It was Dale Carnegie's public speaking. Back in the 50s and the 60s and in the 40s, Dale Carnegie was a public speaker, and he had a course on public speaking. And some of the best fundamental techniques about performing in front of an audience is in this book.
And a lot of people are not comfortable being in front of an audience. I mean, I'm a bit of a ham, so I don't mind doing that. Obviously, you're doing this for a living as a comic magician, but a lot of business people, they miss opportunities to talk in webinars or trade shows, or to even network on behalf of their company at various functions, because they're just not comfortable in doing either one-on-one communications or doing one-on 500 communications.
Depending on what you're doing, I'm a big believer myself in rather than in magic is, there's an old saying: instead of learning 5,000 things, learn 5 things really well.
Yeah.
So if you're in banking, well, what aspect of banking do you want to do? Do you want to sell mortgages? Do you want to work as a teller? Do you want to work in investments? I say learn about everything, but really focus in on a couple of things, because it may look like I know a bunch of tricks, but I'm really out there performing like 8 routines that I've honed over the past 20 years. I mean, I learn tricks all the time. Will I perform them from you? Probably not, because a lot of people like to take what they learn and go out there. I'm not a big proponent of that. When you start public speaking, start small. You're out with a friend at coffee. Ask them. It's like, hey, this is a mock business proposal. It's only 2 seconds. That's the kind of advice I give to people when public speaking. Start small.
But you're also doing comedy too. But the problem in business is that people aren't in the business of comedy. And
Yes.
how do you know what's going to work with your audiences and what's going to fall flat? Do you rehearse with friends and family, or are you going by instinct?
Okay, so that question I'm going to answer as a magician and as a comic and as a business professional.
Mm-hmm.
As a magician, you never ever just want to learn something and do it. So you want to practice, 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 just like in real estate is location, 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 practice. And when you think you've gotten it down, you practice it some more. As a comedian, we go to open mics. So you write a joke and you go to the open mic and a joke bombs. Doesn't necessarily mean the joke's bad, because it may not be hitting with a demographic of people. So you go back, rewrite your joke, take it back. The open mic for a comedian is practicing in front of an audience. So what I would tell somebody who to specifically answer your question before I start rambling, is start small and set small, attainable goals.
Mm-hmm.
If you do that, because what a lot of people do is they're in college and they're trying to cram all this information, and the person in front of you, like a sales pitch, the person you're selling to is coming to you because they want to buy a product. So when when I'm talking to somebody on the phone, a mom who wants me to perform at their 5-year-old's birthday party, they only want to know two things. They want to know availability and price. So those are the two things in my email, other than thank you for reaching out.
Hmm.
I try to keep it as concise as possible.
Well, what you did with the card deck a minute ago was quite nice. Can we see a little bit more of the card deck?
Oh yeah, like that. And then you could shuffle the deck and you could fan it and you could do all these things. What I like to do is when I'm performing, when I'm up on stage, sometimes I won't do a specific trick. I'll just start talking to the audience and I'll be like, hey guys, how you doing? I'm doing all this stuff down here, but I'm not even looking at my hands. Oh man, you must think I must have a lot of time on my hands. Actually, I'm quite busy doing what I'm doing now. But yeah, I actually started off doing card magic, so cards are my comfort zone.
Wow. Are there tricks that you've tried and didn't work, and no matter how hard you worked at it, it just never clicked?
Yes. At a very young age, I wanted to be a super serious magician. I wanted to be David Blaine. When I was coming up as a kid, my inspiration was David Blaine. So I wanted to be like, pick a card. I wanted to be that. But unfortunately, because of my affect and because of my personality, I would always end up making the audience laugh. I tried super hard. I wouldn't even say anything. I would just wear a cardboard necklace around my thing that just said pick a card. Because I found if I talked to the audience, I would make them laugh. I did not want to be funny. I wanted to be serious. I wanted to be taken seriously. But unfortunately, I believe that people, through their environment, the way they came up in the world, I'm a ham bone. I'm a bonehead. I am just silly. And as soon as I realized, okay, I'm never going to be David Blaine because David Blaine is David Blaine, I started developing my own version of comedy magic. A lot of people feel when they start out, it's like, oh, I need to be super serious. Unfortunately, when I'm super serious, it comes off unnatural. I can't be super serious.
Yeah.
It's just something about my face, the way I don't know. I've tried to be, I've been in I've blown job interviews because I made my interviewer laugh so hard.
But it's still, that's you. And I think a lot of businesses where they do goof up is that they don't have a distinctive personality. And I'm not saying that every business professional needs to be David Blaine or Chris Angel or
Yeah.
even go back to Doug Henning. But if you're trying to be something you're not, people are going to see through it very, very quickly. And it's not to your advantage at all.
In magic, we have something called the garden path. You want to lead a prospective client or audience member down the garden path. No matter what business you're in that business to make money. So when I have you pick a card, you have the expectation of me finding it in some magical way. When you're, I don't know, doing stocks and bonds and other, business related things, there's a set expectation. Now, again, I am typically in the business of children's birthday party entertainment, which is marketing, which is, sales, which combines everything. Like I said before, the more concise you are and the more transparent you are, the better. And that comes back to another principle of magic. It's called being natural.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be yourself. You have to be authentic. And no matter what business, go to a used car dealership and find the guy who's selling the most and see what he does. It's likability.
But you also have to have a plan B in business too, because you're mentioning that you're doing children's birthday parties. Well,
Yeah.
since March, a lot of kids haven't had birthday
No,
parties.
no.
I do think they will for a couple of more months. So, what has been your plan? And also, you're doing comedy, and the comedy clubs have been closed. So,
Yeah.
what has been your plan B for your business?
Well, something I learned from that book that was written in the 30s and 40s, way before the internet, is you have to be malleable, and you have to be able to look at the writing on the wall and adapt. I currently work part-time at a movie theater. I have been for 18 years. They have amazing flexible hours, but the writing's on the wall.
Yeah.
Movie theaters are probably not going to be around anymore. So having a plan B, my plan B is actually I've always had a 9 to 5 job doing magic, just in case it's like, oh, in June, guess what? Only one kid named Billy had a birthday party, but the rent's still due. And I think what I've done and what other magicians do is they've put together a top-notch virtual show through Zoom. That's what a lot of the guys are doing. Their YouTube channels, passive income. You know, I know a lot of guys who had a virtual show before the pandemic, and those guys are the ones doing really good now because they saw the writing on the wall. I think the Zoom stuff would have happened. It might have happened like maybe 5 or 6 years down the future, but I'll put it to you like this. Have you ever heard the term, this meeting could have been done in an email?
Oh, yes.
So I think that's where business is going. You might have a team member in Vermont, but then you have another team member in California. Your team might be scattered all over the country. With this virtual place gives them the ability to interlink. But yeah, it's all about the ability to be malleable and adapt.
It's interesting too, because in the business world, because our trade conferences have been canceled, we have now been flooded with a ton of webinars. And the problem, I mean, granted, Zoom is a wonderful technology and it's fairly easy to use, but there's a problem because a lot of people who are on camera doing webinars or even doing discussions, they don't know how to use the camera. And sometimes they don't know how to use their voice. And sometimes it just drones on like this, or sometimes they're all the way up into the
I know.
camera.
I know.
Yeah.
So what I would say to someone starting out
Mhm.
is the same advice that someone gave me when I was really young in magic. Take an acting class. A lot of them are free.
Yeah.
And it's not an acting class. Every single college in the United States has a public speaking course. Every adult ed, $10. I used to teach in a public speaking course. The information is actually free on YouTube.
Yeah.
And but if you have to break out of your shell and go. I would say in my case that was an acting course, but to answer your question more concisely, all you got to do is go to YouTube and say, it's like, well, how do I use my camera? The information is actually there on the internet for free.
Yeah.
Or you can pay, or there are so many options. I would take a basic course I would just take some basic courses in public speaking. Mixed media is another thing. They'll teach you how to use a camera. They'll teach you what wire goes to where. They'll teach you about like not having this much headroom in a shot. Like before, can you turn your camera over?
Yeah.
I knew exactly what that meant, but just like everybody, no matter, I hate when people use their demographic as oh, well, I'm too old to learn how. No, if you want to make money, If you want to make money in your field, you have to adapt. Someone once told me it's like the internet's not a place. Granted that this was before the internet was a thing. I apologize for that one. But so basically what happens is that you got a bunch of people who are refusing to adapt because it's like, I want to have a meeting with you, and you. You know, they don't want to break out. And those people, unfortunately, if you don't adapt, you either adapt or you die.
Indeed.
And whatever that means, you know.
Yeah. Well, Paul, can I ask you to do another trick for us while I have you on camera?
Oh, of course. You like the cards, so I'll show you. I'll show you a cool one. You could probably do this at home. I will say that over and over again, but you won't be able to. So I have to put that at the beginning of it. So I have an envelope, and I'm going to try to keep it in frame the entire time because I don't want you to think that I'm going to cheat. I am, just not right now. So basically this will happen. Just tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Okay. Just memorize that card.
Okay.
You got it?
Got it.
Okay. So now you were saying, say we're on a business call and there were 20 people in here, but it's just me and you. So we're going to pretend there's 20 people. I would say you have a card, but you know what? That's no fun for everybody else. I used to do this in bars. I used to bet the person $20 that I would be able to figure out what card they had, and that card was in this envelope. But I want everybody else to think of a card. Everybody just think of a card. Now, Phil, you have your card in here, so don't change it because I don't want to look silly. But everybody else, think of a card. Everybody else think, and unfortunately for you guys, I do have a card with every single card on it. So I will leave my Venmo in the chat. And as for you, Phil, was that your card?
Yes, it was.
Nice, because that would have been weird if it wasn't. I wouldn't have been too much of a professional if I couldn't do that.
It would have been a fun video if you couldn't, but it's
for you. But but again, as it's going a call back to your other question, I'm always trying to get as many people as I can when I was doing live gigs, when I was doing restaurants and weddings, and people were paying me to be there. That's one of my favorite tricks. That what I just showed you is my literal favorite trick. The thing with the dollar bill. Today, I decided to give you all the good stuff. And, here's a fun get. If you're afraid of making a joke on camera, I'm going to, and you have my permission to use this, even though I stole it from another magician. So here's the gag. I said, it's like, hey, Phil, do you know what day it is?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I bet you didn't know that it's free pen day all over the United States. If you go down to your bank, it's free pen day. You can choose any pen you want in the place, and you can walk out with it. I bet you didn't know that.
But you didn't know my bank branch is still closed.
Well, I don't have a joke for that yet, but I'm sure they'll mail it to you. My bank is open, and when I went down, they said I could have any pen. This is the pen I chose.
Okay.
Yeah. They weren't too happy about it, but you know what? When you advertise a free pen, this is mine. Mm-hmm. And that's one of my favorite gags of all time. And I found that at Goodwill. So obviously you probably wouldn't want to do that in a business meeting, but learning how to break the ice. Here's another good icebreaker that you have my permission to use. It's like, hey team, are we ready to go? Everybody caffeinated? That joke makes everybody laugh. Don't know why. I don't drink coffee. but asking people if they're caffeinated, or I says like, hey guys, thanks for coming to work today. That's another one that'll make everybody laugh because they don't have a choice. So.
Well, Paul, we've come to the end of today's episode, but if our viewers wanted to get in touch with you to learn more tricks and get more insight, how can they find you?
They can go to my Facebook, Paul Kilmer, or they can go to the Amazing Magical Paul, which is my children's magic Facebook. Like you said, I'm kind of evolving. The Magic Paul comedy, everything I've done is right now I'm using this time to rebrand. So, you know, you can get in touch with me just through Facebook, Paul Kilmer.
Paul Kilmer, thank you so much for being on today's episode of West Fair Video Conversations. And thank you for the pen. And folks, we'll see you again next week. Have yourselves a good one.